we are getting our first look at the final version of tax reform legislation agreed to by House and Senate negotiators.
Overall, this is a $1.5 trillion tax cut, the biggest in over 30 years.
I think that we are going to be in a position to pass something as early as next week, which will be monumental.
The bombshell new report on the Hill claiming that attorney Lisa Bloom may have tried to set up paydays for women accusing President Trump of sexual misconduct.
Reports the president's attorneys will meet with special counsel Robert Mueller next week. And the president just called the FBI's actions on the Russia probe disgraceful.
When you look at what's gone on with the FBI and with the Justice Department, people are very, very angry.
America's top diplomat told world powers North Korea must earn the right to negotiate with the U.S.
We will continue to hold North Korea accountable for its reckless and threatening behavior.
The President of the United States has your back 100%. I will fight for you, and I will never, ever let you down.
Back. I put out a note on Twitter that we were coming back. They didn't seem to care we were coming back, but Rachel being here was
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
How's everything going? How's Christmas in the Duffy house?
It's coming together slowly. Try doing that with 8 kids. It's not
I know.
easy.
I just do a lot of internet shopping.
Congressman Duffy's going to have to get back to work very early next week. A little early Christmas present overnight.
That's true.
A tax cut deal is finally.
They've actually been working hard, Ed. And so we're going to go right to that Fox News alert. The Christmas present the president promised almost delivered. This morning, we're getting our first look at the final tax bill recently revealed.
The stage is now set for passage next week, but it took some compromise to get there.
So what's in, what's out? Who better to tell us? Doug McKelway, live in Washington this morning. Doug, good to see you.
Good to see you, Ed. With apparent approval by a few GOP holdouts, it now appears that the Tax Cut and Jobs Act is headed for passage next week. The House expected to act on Tuesday, the Senate later in the week. Assurance came yesterday when Senator Marco Rubio gave a thumbs up after he won some concessions that would make up to $1,400 of the child tax credit available as a tax refund to lower and middle income families. And then late yesterday, Senator Bob Corker also stepped on board, probably ensuring Senate passage. Also probable yes votes, if they can make it back to vote, are 2 hospitalized Republican senators, Tad Cochran of Mississippi, who has a cancerous lesion that was removed from his nose, and Senator John McCain, of course, hospitalized for the side effects of chemotherapy. The final version of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act keeps 7 tax brackets, but reduces rates for 5 of them. The new rates start at 10%. And then rise to 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37%. The corporate tax rate is reduced from 35% to 21%, and the bill provides some sweeping tax deductions to other businesses, lowering their top effective tax rates to about 30% instead of 39.6%. The agreement also calls for repealing Obamacare's individual mandate, a major step towards the ultimate GOP goal of unraveling the law. It retains a deduction for medical expenses and an exemption for graduate school tuition waivers.
Everyone's lives will be better off under tax reform because of the tax relief families get.
And House Speaker Paul Ryan added in a statement, the conference committee took the best ideas from the House and the Senate plans and made an even better bill, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, now only 2 votes and a signature away from becoming the law of the land. Democrats, as you would expect, are expected to be unanimous in their opposition.
God bless wealthy people. I'm glad we have them. But they don't need a tax break. It's average middle-class people and people struggling to get to the middle class who need those breaks.
The business tax cuts would be permanent, but reductions for individuals would expire in 2026, saving some money to comply with the Senate budget rules. And that's it in a nutshell, guys. Should happen next week.
Doug McKelway, appreciate the details.
Thank you.
Not quite the postcard that Kevin Brady and a lot of people talked about, but still a big win on Capitol.
I would say that Paul Ryan's absolutely right. The final bill is better than the individual House bill was, than the individual Senate bill. I really think they did really take the best of both and put it there. Nobody's going to be happy. Look, tax reform is hard. If it was easy, it wouldn't take 30 years to do it.
To your point, you heard Chuck Schumer there say this is not going to help the middle class at all. Well, guess what? Marco Rubio pushed hard in the final negotiations to get a child tax credit bumped up to $1,400 a year for not the rich, lower to middle class families who don't pay any taxes at all. And we're not going to get that credit because they were not paying taxes. They don't make enough to pay taxes. Now they're going to get a credit.
That's true. Let's not mince words, though. This is a huge win for the GOP and for President Trump that could not get out of their own way. Lowering of the when you set a red line at 20%, you actually get it at 21%. In Washington, that's amazing. And then the repeal of the individual mandate for those true believers out there, it's about time. And I'm glad they didn't fumble that football at the last minute. They're unraveling that law as well. So
before the deal, the Dow had its 69th record close of this year. I bet they're going to beat that early next week. And not if the economy takes off, in part because of this, remember, not a single Democrat has voted for it.
It's a really good point, and I think Republican campaign ads might remind them of that.
And by the way, Democrats would have killed to have this economy, and it's only going to get better from here on.
It's only going to get bigger. A lot of people believe. Well, there's been a big conversation, a lot of revelations this week at the FBI inside the special counsel. Frustrations that there appears to be a lot of evidence of bias atop the former FBI under Barack Obama. Well, the president had some things to say on the South Lawn yesterday about that before going to talk to new recruits at the FBI. Some say he had different messages, others think differently. Take a listen.
It's a shame what's happened with the FBI, but we're going to rebuild the FBI. It'll be bigger and better than ever. But it is very sad when you look at those documents. When you look at what's gone on with the FBI and with the Justice Department, people are very, very angry.
With me as your president, America's police will have a true friend more loyal than anyone else can be. The President of the United States has your back 100%. I will fight for you, and I will never, ever let you down, ever.
And right there, he's talking to the folks who are going to be the new FBI agents coming up, who are going to be on the front lines of fighting, whether it's organized crime, dealing with all kinds of crime all across the United States, not just these kind of high-profile investigations in Washington. And you can split it out, and you can say, look, I'm behind the people who are actually fighting to make America safer. Counterterrorism, for example, a big one, clearly, for the FBI, but still criticize the leadership and the senior people who look like they were rigging the investigation in favor of Hillary Clinton.
And remember, it's probably the boots that were alerting or whistleblowing about the political activity going on with the suits at the top.
That's exactly right. I mean, some people are saying that he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. I think it's the exact opposite. You rank and file want to know that when they pass that intelligence or these investigations up, it's going to be treated in a apolitical way. And so if you can drain the swamp at the top, you're empowering the agents at the bottom. I think that's very much how the
What are the agents themselves actually saying? Well, Sarah Carter, first-rate journalist, has been talking to them. Here's what she says.
Talking to field agents today, a number of field agents and retired FBI agents, and they have the same sentiment as President Trump. Remember, people want to criticize President Trump, but what we've seen on the 7th floor is something that we've never seen before, and people have said this over and over again. Never seen this type of behavior within the FBI, which is so blatant. And you know, Sean, what was even more interesting to me was they were telling me they were at an event, all of these field agents, and some military officials were there, and they said, everybody was worried about Russia collusion with Trump. Instead, what we're seeing is FBI 7th floor collusion with Clintons. And that's how they're feeling.
Well, speaking of 7th floor collusion at the FBI, James Comey, the former director, has cryptically, for many times, taken to Twitter. This is what he tweeted yesterday. He said, "The citizen's safety lies in the prosecutor who serves the law and not factional purposes." Robert H. Jackson, former Attorney General, Supreme Court Justice.
You know, I tweeted at him yesterday. He hasn't responded. I've been doing this for a few days. He's probably never going to respond. That's fine. But how can you say this is about the law, serve the law? 24 hours, Mr. Comey, after it was revealed, all of those edits to his statement exonerating Hillary Clinton. By the way,
it's pre-exoneration.
Drafted a couple months before Hillary Clinton was even interviewed. And basically, Peter Strzok, we learned. I mean, this is an important development this week. Not just the anti-Trump text from Peter Strzok, who was the FBI agent basically leading the Hillary Clinton investigation, pro-Clinton text messages as well, not just anti-Trump. But he was the guy changing James Comey's statement to make it seem more innocuous and not criminal for Hillary Clinton. And now James Comey's out there saying, we need to follow the law.
Well, this isn't the first tweet. I mean, he's been sending these weird, cryptic, tweets.
Bible verses.
Bible verses. He seems to have a lot of time on his hands.
Well,
he wants to get out there, and he's worried about what's unraveling, the information that is coming to light, which, by the way, would never have come to light had Hillary been elected.
Very, very true. Doesn't he feel like that friend that you're debating, and he's losing the debate, so he starts going to weird quotes and esoteric thoughts to make him sound smart, and he's above the whole thing, but you're actually just getting creamed on the merits.
Do you mean like somebody who writes like failing on the top of the New York Times?
Of course. There is my failing New York Times.
Speaking of Hillary Clinton, the longest book tour ever.
The longest book tour ever has apparently come to an end. I wasn't tracking its longevity, but of course Hillary and her team were. Maybe. I get updates on my phone. Here's a tweet from Hillary Clinton yesterday. She said, returning home after the final week of the book tour for 2017, this was the last copy of What Happened that I signed at our final signing in Seattle with her peeps. A terrific journey that this has been so far. Thank you to all who came out and told me your story.
No, she said so far. It sounds like that might mean the tour will keep going.
What does that mean?
Well, let's take a look at some of her greatest hits from her tour.
There was this really perfect storm. You had, and we will get to this, the enormous impact of the Russian theft of emails, the release of them by WikiLeaks.
You're still blaming others more than yourself.
I don't blame others. The determining factor was the intervention by Comey on October 28th.
Lesson is you can get away with attacking America. This president and administration are not going to hold you accountable.
He was willing to play, let's not forget, Islamophobic politics, homophobic politics, sexist politics.
What are you going to be for Halloween?
I think I will maybe come as the president. We've got to get to the bottom of what happened in 2016. If I had been president, or on Earth 2 where I am, I would have an independent commission.
Wow, it was the tour that never ended, and it's finally come.
So much denial in that. I mean, it's really amazing the lack of introspection that she's had over this book tour.
You're right. The best part of the clip was that one journalist from Britain saying, so you're blaming others. Yeah, I mean, that sums up the tour.
It's true. You know, the best part of the clip is she's not president, and instead some real tax cuts are going to be passed on Capitol Hill.
That right? We really dodged the bullet.
Just saying. All right.
He is super excited.
We're going to move on.
Segment.
Yes. We've heard the names Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok, and Andrew McCabe. But who are they, and what are their roles in the Russia probe? Former CIA officer Buck Sexton breaks down the key players you're not going to want to miss next.
And are you having a Christmas party? A lot of people do.
Good morning and welcome back to Fox and Friends. With all of this talk of investigations, it's difficult to keep track of who's who. So we're breaking down the key players you need to know in the FBI and DOJ's presidential Russia probe that it's turned back toward Clinton ties. Here to investigate the investigators. That's important. Sometimes you have to investigate the investigators. Former CIA officer Buck Sexton. Buck, thanks for joining us this morning. So if you're like the rest of America, you're hearing about the Russia probe, but you're also hearing about how these Clinton ties are very troubling and talk about bias. So you've got Bob Mueller atop the special counsel. You've got James Comey cryptically tweeting as the former FBI director, whose leaking of certain information triggered the Bob Mueller probe. But we've got a lot of other names that have become household names but can get lost in the mix. Break down for us the FBI and the DOJ and some of the ties to the Clinton camp.
Well, first of all, we should understand that we're talking about a whole bunch of Democrats here, at least 8 that are involved here in the investigation and really in the various investigations who are established Democrats, ties to the Clintons, ties to Democrat political activities. And so that's a necessary context for all the rest of the discussion. That
Absolutely. A lot of that encompassed in the anonymous folks here in Mueller's team. But let's start with Andrew McCabe.
Andrew McCabe is somebody who is believed to be involved with involved with the handling of the Fusion GPS contact, but we don't know the full story there just yet. We also know that his wife was running for office, has ties to Terry McAuliffe. A lot of money came in from Democrats there. And he has been involved in the Hillary Clinton email investigation. He's been involved now with the Mueller probe. So he is an important node of contact for all of these different individuals that we're seeing here.
And when you say potentially referred to, we believe he's referred to in those text messages as as the one who may be a part of how they reverse engineer hurting Trump were he to win.
Now, this is
But
critical because of all of the most damaging text messages from Peter Strzok, and this was the big bombshell from this week, the ones that referenced a possible insurance plan also against Trump's election. And this is the individual, by the way, who wrote profane things about the president. He also said that he thinks the president is an imbecile. I forget what the specific words were. But he mentioned Andy's office and a conversation in Andy's office about an insurance policy if the president won. We think the Andy was the Andy McCabe that we just showed you, who would have been at the very top of the FBI.
Absolutely.
Which would be
he also led the criminal probe into the Clinton server. Was also central to some of the changes to the statement that James Comey made about Clinton's culpability with her email server as well. Now let's move over to the DOJ. The name Andrew Weissman.
Now, Weissman is interesting mostly because he seems to be another politicized, very senior figure on the DOJ side, specifically instead of being an FBI investigator. And he praised Sally Yates, who did that act of grandstanding. I know you will recall.
The president,
everyone, deciding that it was up to her whether or not she should do her job as acting attorney general with regard to the travel ban. He sent her an email saying that he was so proud of her. So pretty clear Democrat left bias coming out of Andrew Weissman. And again, what I mentioned, Democrat donations. That's really one of the only things that's in common with almost all these different individuals, Democrat donations or connections.
Max out donor. We're going to go finally to Bruce Orr, also connected to his wife, Nellie, here.
Bruce Orr, Fusion GPS. He's the individual that was demoted. They're saying reassigned, which is a nice way in bureaucratic circles of saying demoted, because he met with Fusion GPS, which may have been the basis for the entire Russia collusion investigation. That is a big problem if you're looking for an honest...
So, as much as you've clarified this for me, Buck, I'm still confused. The web is so wide and deep that this is why there's so many questions about whether or not this can be an unbiased investigation at all.
But this chart, people should get used to. This is like a deep state family tree in action here. We should keep an eye on it.
Well said, deep state family tree. Buck Sexton, stick around. We might do this again.
Good to see you, Pete.
All right. Well, did Republicans in Congress deliver on their tax promise? Former Congressman Jason Chaffetz weighs in on what his colleagues came up with just ahead. And in just a few hours, wreaths will be placed on
Some quick headlines for you. An ISIS-inspired killer gets the death penalty for beheading his coworker. Remember, that was a grandmother. Alton Nolan attacked his coworker at an Oklahoma food processing plant in 2014. The 33-year-old told police he believed his actions followed the Quran. Investigators are finding an ISIS flag, or found an ISIS flag in Nolan's car, and a computer search history of ISIS beheadings. And hundreds of passengers are sick from a stomach virus on a Royal Caribbean cruise. Ship doctors aboard the 5-night trip, slated to return to Fort Lauderdale this morning, are treating them with over-the-counter medication. The cruise line saying it's currently working on intense cleaning procedures. That's always been my fear about this.
Wow.
And President Trump called John McCain's wife to check in on the Arizona senator who was back in the hospital. McCain is dealing with complications from his cancer treatment. The Republican senator was diagnosed earlier this year with glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer.
We wish him the best.
Absolutely.
Well, today marks the 26th year of Wreaths Across America when they will pay tribute to U.S. veterans at Arlington National Cemetery.
The wreath-laying ceremonies will be held at over 1,200 additional locations all across America, all states, placing around, listen to this, 1.5 million wreaths at the graves of our fallen heroes. But they can't do it alone. They need your help. So joining us now to discuss is Corporate Development and Community Relations Director for Wreaths Across America, Bree Kingsbury. Good morning, Bree. It's so remarkable what you do, the relationship we've had with you here at Fox News. We first want to salute you, but we want you to also talk a little bit before we get into what our viewers can still do before Christmas comes to help. What have you already been doing?
Well, thank you so much for having me this morning. A day that we can honor our veterans and Gold Star families is always a great day for us, and we're fired up this morning. Your viewers have been so wonderful. Fox and Friends and Fox News have really stepped up for us, again this year. So we really want to thank you for all that you all have done for us this year. We truly couldn't have done it without you, and you pushed us over the edge again this year.
What is the true symbolism and meaning of what you do? Why does it matter so much to remember these men and women who have left us?
Well, for Gold Star families, we know that Memorial Day is just not one weekend, in May. Memorial Day is every day for those precious families, and the holidays are an especially difficult time for them. So we want to come out to Arlington and our other participating locations and it's a celebration of life. Today we're going to come out and say the names of our fallen. When we place that wreath, we say the name of that person because, we believe that when a service member, when he or she dies, that is really the first death, and the second death is the last time someone speaks their name. So we believe that you should go. And it's not a marathon. We're not trying to hurry and get this finished this morning. We want to really take our time, place the wreath, say the name out loud, and really, our mission is to remember, honor, and teach. And it's so important that we earn their sacrifice every single day.
Bree, if people want to volunteer, is it too late? I know you're doing this today, but I believe there's also another opportunity, which is the removal of the wreaths.
Yeah, absolutely. So this morning, if anyone in the D.C. metro area wants to volunteer at Arlington, we'd love to have you. Gates open at 8:30. But we also have locations throughout the country. We have a little over 1,400 locations this year. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, it's certainly not too late. You don't need to sign up. It's free. It's a great way to teach your children about service and sacrifice. So you can go to our website at wreathsacrossamerica.org to find a location near you.
So if you're waking up in your bathrobe this morning, maybe you're not waking up in your bathrobe, but you're watching and you can still go on wreathsacrossamerica.org, find out a local site in your community, and go out and lay wreaths this morning.
Absolutely. I've got my hoodie on. I've got my boots on. I'm ready to go. Everyone come out and join me this morning.
And if you can't volunteer, you can certainly donate to the organization.
Yeah.
Of course.
It started in
Absolutely.
1992 with 5,000 wreaths. Now there are hundreds of thousands. Bree Kingsbury, we salute you and thank you for letting us help in any small way we could. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much and Merry Christmas.
Have a great
Merry
day.
Christmas,
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Many Americans are brushing off the botched terror attack in New York City this week, but was it a dry run for something much larger? A former CIA station chief says it looks a lot like the buildup to 9/11. We'll have that.
Plus, Republicans pushing for a second special counsel to look into the FBI DOJ Clinton collusion. But Attorney General Jeff Sessions says he's not so sure. Does Jason Chaffetz agree with that? We're going to ask him next.
Consider such a special counsel?
Well, our responsibility, and it's clear, is to provide the highest possible professional standards of law enforcement that we can provide to the American people. So we're going to take seriously the concerns that have been expressed. Rosenstein has testified before the Congress again just yesterday, and we want to be open with them.
So is he for it or against it? I'm not sure I can figure that out right there. Jason Chaffetz, seasoned veteran who might help us sort it out. What is the deal with the Attorney General? I mean, the evidence is out there of all kinds of problems at the FBI and the Justice Department, and he seems to be hesitating on the idea of a second special counsel.
I got to tell you, and it pains me to say this a little bit, but I don't think the Attorney General is up to the job that he's doing. He's absent from this. The reason there's a special counsel is because he had to recuse himself from everything. And my own personal opinion, I think it's time for the Attorney General to go because you need leadership there, some deep systemic problems there. Now, I don't think there should be a special counsel. I mean, how's the first one working out, right? That's not going so well. I put a lot of weight on Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General. They have 450 employees, working for the Inspector General. They've been working on this for a year and a half. You haven't heard leaks. And I think they will come up with the most definitive report in the January-February timeframe.
But wait a second, to challenge that last part, I hear what you're saying up until the last part. These Inspectors General at various departments, as you know, they play stall ball. I mean, a year and a half? Look at Peter Strzok with the text messages. How does he still have a job at the FBI? Forget about a special counsel. Why hasn't the Attorney General or the Inspector General said, we got to put this guy out?
Inspector General can't fire them, but they can provide the information. And it looks like that happened in the June-July timeframe. And again, it goes back to the Attorney General. Only at the Department of Justice can a person with this, bad of a record go into human resources. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
So the Attorney General recused himself from the Russia investigation. Why would he have to recuse himself from an investigation into the investigators?
I don't know, but I sat with the Attorney General while I was still in Congress, and I spent more than an hour, and we went through everything. They won't provide Fast and Furious documents. They wouldn't prosecute Brian Pagliano for... he didn't even show up. I issued a subpoena for him to testify before Congress, and he didn't show up. And we wanted him to be prosecuted. And the Attorney General looked me in the eye and said, we're not going to do that.
The IT guy for Hillary Clinton.
The IT guy for Hillary Clinton. I mean, I got a laundry list of things that the Attorney General will not pursue, and he can't run the department and agency. I just think it's...
I think people are scratching their heads. I've actually heard, I think on Lou Dobbs, saying he thinks the deep state must have something on him because it makes no sense why he hasn't acted in these cases that seem so obvious to the American people that there is corruption and they need to be investigated.
But to push back on your on your Inspector General, I've had work with Michael Horowitz through the years, myself, Trey Gowdy. I'm telling you, we believe in their organization. You don't hear the leaks. And when they come out with their report, soup to nuts, everything from the tarmac meeting with Director Comey to his firing, everything in between, they're the ones that unearthed the documents or the 10,000 text messages that all became because of the Inspector General.
But are they going to, I hear you, but are they going to do anything about it?
There is a conflict because once you shine light on this, you have to have the Department of Justice prosecute the Department of Justice. Right. And you need a strong Attorney General to do that. And I don't know that we have one right now.
Maybe the end of the day for that, for sure. Now, there's a lot of other things happening. A big revelation yesterday, the conference committee has come out with their report of what the tax bill will be in the House and the Senate. As a conservative, what's your takeaway of what the Republicans are going to look to pass here?
Oh, look, I think this is a huge win for the United States of America. A lot of back and forth, a very open process. And Democrats are in a terrible position, right? Heaven forbid that the American people be able to keep their own money in their own pockets. I think they will unanimously vote against it, but hats off and applause to Kevin Brady and Orrin Hatch, the two leaders in the two bodies. It is a compromise. I'm sure there's certain parts that people would want to change. There's certain things I would want to change, but the reality is more than $1 trillion will be saved and put back into the American people's pockets, and that's going to be a huge win.
You've been in the House a long time. Talk to us a little bit about what this means for Paul Ryan. I mean, I think people really underestimate how much brain power and years of brain power have gone into this tax plan and into this win for the GOP.
Paul Ryan is the policy wonk. He's always wanted to attack the structural reform needed to get this country moving into a growth format. This has got to be a huge positive moment for Paul Ryan. Hats off to him, because he always wanted to be the chairman of Ways and Means so he could do this.
Yes.
We didn't let him do that very long. We promoted him right up to the speaker when he finally was the chairman of Ways and Means, and I think he should take a good victory lap on this. It's got to make the vote happen, but by the time we get to Wednesday, then look out, because by the end of the week, it gets really ugly for the House and the Senate, because funding the government is not going to be quite so easy.
Look forward. If this really helps the economy take off, you have not a single Democrat in either body who voted for it.
Are they secretly worried? I mean, to Ed's point, are they?
Yeah, I mean, look, what do the Democrats stand for at this point? All right, they have Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They don't have a national leader. They're opposed to allowing people to keep their own money in their own pockets. What do you run on if you're a Democrat? I don't know that they have a message against the president with a zooming economy, people's paychecks going up. Their company they're working for is going to be doing better. They're going to repatriate billions of dollars back in the United States, which will get invested. The president's doing what he said he was going to do, and he's doing it in record time.
Well, you make a great point. When people feel good and have money in their pockets, it's good for whatever party made that happen.
Dust off the old, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
That's right.
That's right. And we even say Merry Christmas now. So we got the full package.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, and
Merry
thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Turning now to your headlines. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson telling North Korea the country must stop missile testing and return to negotiations.
North Korea must earn its way back to the table. The pressure campaign must and will continue until denuclearization is achieved.
The U.S. coming face to face with the rogue nation at UN Security Council meeting. Tillerson adding that the United States does not want war, but we are prepared to defend ourselves. An NFL team is now investigating its owner for alleged workplace misconduct. The Carolina Panthers acknowledging that founder Jerry Richardson is facing accusations. The nature of the allegations, however, have not been revealed. The league is declining to comment. Decking the halls with nothing? A group of University of Minnesota pushing for students and the faculty to make this holiday season around campus more inclusive. In a memo, the group is warning against decorations of Santa, Christmas trees, wrapped gifts, and the color red and green, claiming they're not appropriate. A spokesperson for the school calling the memo a, quote, conversation piece to facilitate dialogue.
I love this.
Those are your
story
headlines.
because it's Minnesota. And so what is Mr. Pete going to say
My
about it?
head is exploding. Listen, would they do the same thing for Ramadan? This is an honest question. Would they offend Muslim students by saying, don't display what you're proud of in your religious holiday? Why against Christians on Santa, a Christmas tree? What were the other ones? I can't even remember.
Not exactly.
Green and red. Don't do green and red.
I've been triggered.
Not even green and red.
Nope,
You can't
none
do
of
that. All right. Rick is the man. He's wearing a red
One
tie.
more time.
He's in
No, Rick, all yours.
You can't wear red. You're wearing a red tie.
Dang it. I forgot my green suit today to go with it. All right, this is a color really that we're afraid of. This is that really cold air that's up across Canada, getting very close here down towards the border. Right now, I think it's going to retreat this week a little bit towards the north. That's good news. We're going to see a bit of a warm up. It's been so cold, at least around the Northeast and the Great Lakes. Currently, it's obviously still really chilly. We had snow move across parts of the Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast yesterday. Now we have another little clipper system. We talked about that last week, Pete. A clipper system coming down across parts of the Great Lakes. Going to bring a little bit more snow and some lake effect snow throughout the day today. We're also going to see some rain moving across East Texas and out across the west. Fire conditions get worse again this weekend. Winds kick up. Unfortunately, those fires still going out there, and the windy conditions are going to be pretty extreme.
Rick, I'm feeling a little raspiness in your voice.
This is much better than it was. I had been sick for a week, and then 2 days ago I started feeling fine, but the voice just went.
I think it's raspy and kind of.
A lot of Americans.
Go on with that thought. Tell me more. What were you saying?
Besides the upsides, there are some downsides. Let us know. Email us at friends@foxnews.com. What would you recommend to Rick? to help him feel a little
Yes,
better.
please. Send me that on Twitter.
I like that tactic you used too.
Let us know.
With Pete. You need some more time there,
Need some
buddy?
more time? Yeah, I wish. Anytime you want to give me more time, I'll take it. All right. Good man, Rick. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Well, many Americans are brushing off the botched terror attack in New York City this week. But was it a dry run for a larger plot? A former CIA station chief says it looks a lot like the lead up to 9/11. Interesting take. He joins us next.
You won't want to miss that. And this World War II vet is getting in the Christmas and birthday spirit, one dance move at a time. The viral video that will have you smiling all image from the attempted attack on New York City's Port Authority bus terminal this week may have been minimal, but the threat still looms big time. And while many Americans brush off the botched terror attack, our next guest warns it resembles some of the dry runs used by terrorists in the past. And joining us now is the former CIA station chief who served in Moscow, Iraq, and Pakistan, Daniel Hoffman. Daniel, you're such an important person for us to talk to this morning because it's remarkable to me, in a good way, that just a few days after this attempted terror attack, Rachel, it seems like most Americans, including myself, I frankly forgot that this just happened a few days ago. I'd already moved on from it. In a way, that can be good, that we're not sitting here in fear. But on the other hand, are we taking this a little lightly?
Yeah, well, my first thoughts after this botched attempt by Al-Qaeda was back to 1993 when Ramzi Youssef targeted the World Trade Center unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we saw 8 years later that Al-Qaeda went back to the same target. I mean, New York is at the epicenter for terrorists, for Al-Qaeda and for ISIS, as a key target for them. And while the means of delivery might be a little bit different, we've seen some changes over the past 10 years in terms of command and control and the use of cyberspace. They keep going back to the same target, and that's of concern to me.
Daniel, we've seen recently with ISIS that they've been giving messages that they're targeting Christians. They're targeting Christmas markets.
Right.
They're targeting churches. I'm here in New
Right.
York for the weekend. I love to go to St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's one of my favorite things to do while I'm here. Should I be worried?
Well, one of the ways we defend ourselves is by all of our citizens being really vigilant. There's probably three things that we need to be doing. One is collecting intelligence from overseas so that we ensure that those overseas threats aren't visited on our shores. Secondly, our state and local law enforcement need to penetrate the networks here and also be aware of when individuals travel back to places with rising levels of Islamic extremism. Ullah was in Bangladesh in September, and it's unclear at this time whether he was being radicalized there or planning this attack. And then, of course, our citizens need to be aware of things, and if they see something, they need to say something.
What should I look for? Let's say I'm in a crowded subway or I'm at Mass in St. Patrick's Cathedral. What am I looking for?
Yeah, I think, it's almost like it's a very expansive list of things that could cause you concern, and I think all of us should trust our instincts, really, that if you see something that doesn't look quite right, and sometimes people who are carrying, in this case, Ullah was carrying a pipe bomb, that might be some pieces of that may be visible. At the end of the day, it's just important to be looking around you and being aware of what's going on.
Daniel, I got 15 seconds. The president, let's bring him into this. In the campaign, he promised to really take the fight to ISIS. He seems to be following through on that. And what we're left with are these terrorists who are basically just going to YouTube to try to learn how to do this. Yeah. And then the bomb doesn't work, thankfully, basically. Right. Is that a result in part of what the president is doing in terms of taking the fight to them?
Well, the president has effectively taken the fight to ISIS and absolutely eliminated their physical, geographical, ungoverned space, and that's important. But one of the differences between yesterday and today is that now Al-Qaeda and ISIS, they're no longer seeking to direct attacks as much as they're seeking to inspire them through cyberspace. Yeah. And so that makes it extremely challenging for us to detect these attacks. It does put the onus more on our state and local law enforcement as well as our citizens to be aware of the potential for attacks.
Well, Daniel Hoffman, Merry Christmas to you, and we appreciate you coming in with this important information.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.
We know people are divided when it comes to politics, meanwhile, but what about being a proud American? Not everyone, apparently, is so proud. We've got the numbers, and they're going to stun you, frankly.
And Christmas is 9 days away. Still need a gift for Dad? Well, Kurt, the cyber guy, has some ideas.
Is your dad a difficult one to shop for? Well, there's still some time to get him something awesome. Kurt, the cyber guy, is here with the hottest tech gifts that your dad will love this Christmas. Kurt,
yeah. What do you want for Christmas?
I don't know yet, so you're going to have to tell me.
I think I've got what you want for Christmas. All right, Star Wars is coming out right now, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, how cool is this? From Bed Bath & Beyond, we found this. This is really cool. A company called Propel makes these. This is, by the way, battle drones. There's the X-Wing right there. There are 3 different models of these. You can fly them solo. Dad does not have to be a drone player. But it's really a lot of fun, whether you're flying solo or if you decide to do multiplayer stuff with this.
Wait, so can you fly it hand solo?
Oh, Ed Henry! Bonus for points for the cheese this morning.
I have to say, I kind of miss the days when Dad got tools to help you around the house. I mean, this is so fun.
This is modern. This is tech, Dad.
You know what it is? It's going to put a smile on his face right out of the box, no matter what.
It's going to annoy the whole family all year long.
All right, keep going.
All right, so $129. Bed Bath & Beyond is where we found that one. Of course, bring your coupon.
What's this?
This is the very latest Apple TV, and this is a 4K TV from Apple TV that has HDR. What does that mean? High dynamic range. So we're talking about the most pixels, 4K, 4 times the pixels on your TV, and then HDR, it just means the pixels are really spectacularly beautiful. So you have an existing
TV and it puts it on steroids, or
it does that, and what it does is like the backgrounds that Apple's now famous for on the Apple TV. You can see the texture in the snow. You can see the shadows of the snow on a mountain scene. It's unbelievable the resolution.
If Dad has a lot of mixtapes,
how cool is that? That
80s rock,
right?
You know?
We're bringing back the mixtape. I found that on Amazon. These are $8 or $9 for the mixtape.
Really?
And for $35, you're going to put another smile on Dad's face because this is a Studebaker cassette radio.
This is what a cassette player looks like. I think a lot of kids have no idea what that is.
They have no idea. So pop the tape in, and then boom, you bring back your favorite.
I have a Leopard and Kiss.
No, think forward, like Ace of Base. Those are my mixed takes.
You were a little more manly.
And for $35, how do you go wrong with that? And then this is great because, like me and Pete, we leave stuff everywhere.
Oh, I like this idea.
Tile, there's Slim Tile, and then there's the original Tile Mate. And these are little devices that are Bluetooth. You put them on things that you own.
Keys.
Keys are a great location. I have one in my wallet. I have one in a bag that I bring
love
around.
that.
And if you lose it, it'll ping. It'll find another person that has Tile. It'll tell you where to find
That's
it.
awesome.
That whole pack is about $49 for the holidays as well.
All right.
All of these are reviewed online if you go to cyberguy.com, and if you also hit us up on Facebook at Fox and Friends.
Great stuff. Thanks. Appreciate it, Kurt.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We've seen NFL players across the league kneeling for the national anthem. Does that look all-American to you? Well, according to some liberals, the NFL is one of the most patriotic brands in the USA, along with the failing New York Times. We're getting our first look at the final tax bill recently revealed.
Overall, this is a $1.5 trillion tax cut, the biggest in over 30 years.
I think that we are going to be in a position to pass something as early as next week, which will be monumental.
The bombshell new report on the Hill claiming that attorney Lisa Bloom may have tried to set up paydays for women accusing President Trump of sexual misconduct.
A lot of revelations this week at the FBI inside the special counsel. Well, the president had some things to say on the South Lawn yesterday about that before going to talk to new recruits.
You look at what's gone on with the FBI and with the Justice Department, people are very, very angry.
With me as your president, America's police will have a true friend.
Speaking of Hillary Clinton, the longest book tour ever.
The longest book tour ever has apparently come to an end.
Still blaming others more than yourself.
I don't blame others. The determining factor was the intervention by Comey.
26th year of Wreaths Across America, that when they will pay tribute to U.S. veterans at Arlington National Cemetery.
We want to come out to Arlington and our other participating locations, and it's a celebration of life.
America and the economy, but I'm more happy that it saved Christmas for me because they're getting it done next week. That means
they are.
I was calling it Operation Save Your Marriage to Sean. I told him, get it done.
Get it done so you can come home for Christmas.
That's right.
And the person who's
it looks like they did it.
Yep, and the man working around the clock for us is Doug McKelway. We're going to go to this Fox News alert. The Christmas present that the president promised almost delivered. This morning, we're getting our first look at the final tax bill that was laid out in this deal late yesterday.
The stage is now set for a passage next week, but it took some compromise to get there.
So what's in it and what's out? Doug McKelway is live in D.C. with that. Good morning, Doug.
Morning, Pete. It was not until late yesterday afternoon that we heard a collective sigh of relief from Republicans on both sides of Pennsylvania Avenue and a loud grumble from Democrats. Assurance came yesterday when Senator Marco Rubio gave a thumbs up after he won some concessions that would make up to $1,400 of the child tax credit available as a tax refund to lower and middle income families. Holdout Bob Corker also came on board. So now the tax bill is headed for apparent passage. The House expected to vote on Tuesday. The Senate after that. Ways and Means Committee Chairman Kevin Brady said everybody's lives will be better off under this new bill.
I think maybe the most important element people aren't yet thinking about is this April 15th, when you file your taxes, that is the last time you will file under this monstrous broken tax code.
And President Trump tweeted late yesterday, "Great job, Kevin. We are all proud of you." Democrats are nearly unanimous in their opposition and frustrated that they, as the minority, were shut out of the process. They don't believe that all Americans will be better off under this bill.
Tax reform bill is a disaster. It helps the wealthiest, most powerful corporations and individuals, and it hurts the middle class.
And now some details. The final version of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act keeps 7 tax brackets but reduces rates for 5 of them. The new rates start at 10% and then rise to 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37%. The corporate tax rate is reduced from 35 to 21%, and the bill provides some sweeping tax deductions to other businesses, lowering their top effective tax rate to about 30% instead of 39.6%. And a few details for you there, guys. Should expect a passage probably midweek, late week.
Doug McKelway, appreciate the details this morning. You see the sun rising just behind him above that Capitol dome. Maybe there's a little bit of hope they're going to get some stuff done.
Morning in America.
Morning in America. Listen, the individual mandate will be repealed, which is the government can't tell us to buy something.
You know, you're right that's kind of an undercovered part of this.
It really is. It's a two-for-one punch.
You're right. It's a two-for, and the corporate tax rate cut. I mean, listen, I wish it wasn't 7 brackets. It should be 1 in my mind. We're going to talk to Herman Cain. He had a 999 plan. We'll ask him what he thinks about it. But the reductions are real, and the corporate tax rate will likely bring jobs back to America, which makes, electoral prospects even better for Republicans as well.
And I have to say, kudos to Marco Rubio. I know there was a little controversial on the child tax credit. No surprise, I like the child tax credit. But you know what? Donald Trump rode to the White House on the support of the working class, and I think that Marco Rubio saw. Look, for 8 years, the working class has been battered, and we're going to give them some relief, and I think that's a good thing.
You know what? This week we saw a big shift. Meanwhile, in another major story, and the whole investigating the president, what's really going on inside the FBI. You had those text messages from Peter Strzok. The anti-Trump messages,
the dossier. We're meeting with Fusion GPS, Bruce
James
Orr.
Comey, and the changes to his statement exonerating Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
The president has been watching that. The president's furious about it. He was going to speak to some new recruits in law enforcement yesterday, but before he did, look at this contrast. Before the event, where he's ripping the FBI, and then at the event, trying to say, look, I've got your back, though. Watch.
It's a shame what's happened with the FBI, but we're going to rebuild the FBI. It'll be bigger and better than ever. But it is very sad when you look at those documents. When you look at what's gone on with the FBI and with the Justice Department, people are very, very angry.
With me as your president, America's police will have a true friend more loyal than anyone else can be. The President of the United States has your back 100%. I will fight for you, and I will never, ever let you down, ever.
Well, a lot of people have pointed out you can hold both to be true. In fact, both can reinforce each other. By cleaning out the swamp of leadership that looks politicized,
right.
You're empowering the rank and file FBI agents, law enforcement, to actually fight crime and do their job in a way that is apolitical, which is what we want from these agencies.
Absolutely. I think the liberals look at this and they go, oh my gosh, he looks schizophrenic.
He's talking out of both sides of his mouth.
But I think
that was my liberal impression.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty dramatic.
But I think the boots, as they like to say, the boots versus the suits, the boots get it. In fact, I read reports that when they found out that Trump was coming to speak, that they all cheered. So they, nobody can question that this president loves law enforcement. He has been behind them 100%. So when he says, I'm your greatest defender, I'm fighting for you, I'm behind you 100%, who cannot believe that? I mean, he has been 100% behind.
Well, and on top of all the revelation we talked about, the text messages, the situation with James Comey and the changing of his exoneration statement started out as, well, maybe it was grossly negligent for Hillary Clinton to have that email server, which could be criminal. And then it gets watered down. And then, of course, she doesn't face charges. And then look at Bruce Orr at the Justice Department this week. Demoted because he did not disclose to top officials his meetings with Fusion GPS.
His wife worked for him.
His wife got paid by them. And that put together the dossier that led to a lot of this investigating. And so Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, President previously called him the beleaguered AG some months ago, you'll remember, was pressed yesterday by a reporter. Does this mean there'll be a second special counsel?
Would you consider such a special counsel?
Well, our responsibility, and it's clear, is to provide the highest possible professional standards of law enforcement that we can provide to the American people. So we're going to take seriously the concerns that have been expressed. Rosenstein has testified before the Congress again just yesterday, and we want to be open with them.
People will say he recused himself from the Russia investigation because it was looking into the campaign, which he's not supposed to do. But a lot of questions for folks, why does he seem to be preemptively recusing himself and the Justice Department from looking into all these obvious aspects where political bias may have been used, and it's worth looking at? I mean, take Bruce Orr and his wife again. He not only met with Fusion GPS before the election, but then again after the election. To what end and for what reason?
So he's been demoted. Why hasn't he been fired? Peter Strzok with the text messages. He gets reassigned. Where do they put him? They put him him an HR at the FBI. So he's teaching other people what to do.
What does it take to get fired at the FBI?
It's so true. In government, it's tough. Well, what does it take to get fired? Jason Chaffetz has a pretty strong opinion on the future of the Attorney General. Take a listen.
It pains me to say this a little bit, but I don't think the Attorney General is up to the job that he's doing. He's absent from this. The reason there's a special counsel is because he had to recuse himself from everything. And my own personal opinion, I think it's time for the Attorney General to go because you need leadership there, some deep systemic problems there.
I think so many conservatives are just scratching their heads thinking about AG Sessions. They're going, is he incompetent? Does the deep state have something on him? Why is he not doing what seems so obvious, which is investigating this kind of corruption?
And he's got a great reputation in Washington. So if the fear is, look, it looks like I'm going to impugn my political opponents and look political, what an opportunity to say, no, I'm going to do an unbiased investigation, which is what the Department of Justice is supposed to be blind. The FBI is supposed to be blind. I'm going to do this right. But if there's enough smoke that there might be a fire, I think he has would have a possibility to redeem himself.
Well, we'll see. I've covered him a long time when he was a senator. I always saw him as somebody with integrity. And I think there's still time for him to go through all of this and follow the facts and see where it goes.
Does he look like somebody who's on his way out to you, maybe?
You know, the problem in terms of pushing him out, if the president wanted to do that, is who is he going to get to replace him? It's a very difficult job in this situation, number one. But think about Chuck Schumer and the Democrats and how they're going to block whomever you put up there because of, everything that the Attorney General is in the middle of. And I think that's ultimately why the president's so frustrated, is that he had one shot at the beginning when there was a little bit of goodwill to pick the Attorney General who was going to do a strong job. And he obviously has gone back and forth. I mean, the president yesterday at this FBI event, we should say, had a vote of confidence for Jeff Sessions. He said he's doing a good job.
He said that, but I think he has buyer's remorse.
We will see. Well, speaking of buyer's remorse of your own country, there's a poll that we found that caught our eye.
Good segue, Pete.
Pete's favorite story. This
is my favorite story of the morning. Okay, Ear to the Ground commissioned a poll of 1,000 respondents of liberals and conservatives, and they asked, is it completely accurate to say you're proud to be an American? That number strikes me as low. 65% of conservatives say proud to be American. 37% of liberals say they're proud to be an American, which is astonishingly low. I wondered where they'd be, where they would be proud. But then they broke it down by patriotic brands for conservatives and liberals. So check this out.
This was fascinating, actually.
Oh, it's incredibly revealing. So for conservatives, the National Rifle Association, your own truly here, Fox News Channel, Chick-fil-A, the Republican Party, and I've been to a Hobby Lobby recently. It's amazing. It's like a religious experience.
Yeah.
So I
don't go on Sundays because they're closed.
True. So, but what are the patriotic brands for liberals? The Democratic Party, the U.S. Supreme Court, interesting, Planned Parenthood.
That's a scratcher for me.
That's
more than a scratcher.
And the NFL, and yes, Pete, your favorite.
So the kneeling NFL,
the kneeling
Planned
NFL,
Parenthood, the top abortion group in America, and the organization the president calls the Failing New York
And you
Times.
wonder why this country is so divided. I mean, just look at that divide. It's just stark.
I mean, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say, what do you think? Friends at FoxNews.com. Do you feel patriotic? Are you liberal? Are you conservative? Do you feel patriotic? And either side that you're on, what do you see as sort of brands that are patriotic to you?
Exactly. What brand did they miss, or which one did they really nail? Besides Fox News Channel, we'll keep that one. We'll take that one.
I just think this is so interesting because I believe patriotism is taught, so it says a lot about parenting as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we do live in two Americas in many ways. So let us know. I think the American flag. There was also breakdowns about the the poll is fascinating. Hopefully we'll do a whole hour on it. If I was a producer, we would. We probably won't.
Pete is a proud American. So we continue to break down, meanwhile, what's in the final version of the tax bill. It's critical for your wallet. Our next guest developed his own plan when he ran for president.
Continuing to pivot off the current tax code is not going to boost this economy. This is why we developed 999.
So you heard that number before. Does Herman Cain think Republicans got it right this time? We'll ask him live next.
I am sincerely intrigued. And this World War...
Just in time for Christmas, Republicans unveil the final version of their tax bill.
A vote is expected next week, but with all this rushing, did they get it right?
Our next guest developed his own tax reform plan back in 2011 when he ran for president. Look at this.
Continuing to pivot off the current tax code is not going to boost this economy. This is why we developed 999. 9% corporate business flat tax, 9% personal income flat tax, and a 9% national sales tax.
replacing all the other taxes with just 3 of them. Joining us now is former CEO of Godfather's Pizza and 2012 GOP presidential candidate Herman Cain. Mr. Cain, thanks for joining us this morning. So big win, you know, Republicans taking a victory lap, and rightfully so, but your plan had 999. This one still has 7 brackets. It may not be as simple as you wanted, but is it a big win for Republicans?
It's not 999, but it's fine, fine, fine. And here's why. There are about 16 moving parts to the Republican plan. Now, I could go through all 16 or I could go through 9, but I won't do that. The reason that I say that this is still a good plan is because they got all of the big issues right. Even though it's 7 brackets, every one of the rates at each bracket went down except for 3. That's good news for individuals. Number 2, job creators, businesses. I know a lot of people are demagogue calling this a giveaway to the rich. No, it's not. Job creators had a big win. That is great. So that's going to help spur the economy. And then the biggest thing that they did right was to repeal the tax penalty on not having health insurance. The Democrats said you have to buy health insurance even if you don't want it. And if you don't buy it and you don't want it, you got to pay a penalty. So they have repealed that ridiculous demand. I think this plan is bold compared to where we are today.
Mr. Cain, it's Rachel Campos Duffy here. You know I'm a big fan of yours and of your 999 plan, and I think you're right. It's fine, fine, fine with me. I think something that's not really talked about a lot is the Obamacare repeal mandate repeal.
Yes.
And as a businessman, you know that will have a big impact. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Here's what you don't hear in the mainstream media. Last year, nearly 8 million people chose not to buy health insurance and chose to pay the penalty. Think about those 8 million people. Most of them are people that are the poorest, and they said, I can't afford to buy it. I'll try to pay the penalty. The Republican plan has removed that penalty so people will have a choice as to what they want to do with health insurance. I agree with you, Rachel. That is a huge win for the American people.
Herman Cain, I think we should have had you on at 9 a.m., but you know what? You're good any hour. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Ed.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Cain.
Merry Christmas to all of you and your families.
Thank you.
We just heard what Herman Cain thinks about the GOP tax plan. What does President Trump's former campaign manager think? I think I got an idea about that. Corey Lewandowski, though, is coming up with the details.
And a Christmas Carol controversy, if there is such a thing. Why some on the left, of course, are now labeling Jingle Bells as... Welcome back to Fox and Friends. On this Saturday, some quick headlines for you. An ISIS-inspired killer gets the death penalty for beheading his coworker, who was a grandmother. Elton Nolan attacked her at an Oklahoma food processing plant back in 2014, you'll remember, assaulting multiple others as well. The 33-year-old told police that he believed his actions were following the Quran. Investigators are also finding an ISIS flag in his car, quite a tip-off, and a computer search history of ISIS beheadings. Well, just connecting those dots. And border arrests on the rise during the Trump administration. The U.S. government announcing a 7th straight month increase of putting people in handcuffs or denying entry. In November, that number reaching just over 39,000. That's up 12% from October and more than double the nearly 16,000 stopped or arrested in April. And the State Department is now tracking reports of blackouts and injuries related to potentially tainted alcohol at Mexican resorts. First you couldn't trust the water, now you can't trust the alcohol. The agency now under fire from lawmakers for underplaying the risks to American tourists. An ongoing investigation by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel identified more than 120 cases.
Now there's a Christmas controversy brewing over this classic holiday carol. Listen up.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is.
A Boston University professor claims Jingle Bells is rooted in racism.
Wow. Professor Kina Hamill saying, quote, the racial history of the song has remained hidden behind its local and seasonal affection. Blackface and racist origins have been subtly and systematically removed from its history. Carol Swain is a former professor at Vanderbilt University and the author of Abduction: How Liberalism Steals Our Children's Hearts and Minds. I mean, what a better book title than Stealing Christmas from Our Families? What in the world is going on?
Well, in academia, we get rewarded for coming up with ideas, and the more extreme, the better. And we know that with Jingle Bells, it doesn't matter how it was originally performed. What matters is that it transcends time and race and place. It's a Christmas classic. We all love it. Why take it away?
Absolutely.
Why the reflexive desire in academia, but more inclusively on the left, to go back to the divisive origins or the things that divide us, as opposed to trying to point toward the things that bring us together?
I think it's part of this whole leftist agenda that I tied to cultural Marxism to destroy America as we know it. And for some reason, race has always been used, keep stirring the pot, instead of pushing for racial reconciliation, what we really need in this country. The political left, and sadly the universities, they seem to have they help create this environment where we send our young people to college, they get politicized. They may be indifferent to race. They see everyone the same, but once they get on the campus, they didn't get involved with the ethnic studies programs, then you get hatred. And that shouldn't be.
Carol, what about this trend where we see these kiddie activists, they call them, growing trend of parents taking their kids to political events? I live around the Washington area, all kinds of anti-Trump rallies. People are allowed to, speak out against the president, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, but they bring their kids, they wear these hats that I can't even describe what kind of a hat it is. They're pink. I'll say that. And they have their kids hold up signs that say all kinds of, vulgarity and all kinds of things on the signs. And you might have a 5 or 6-year-old holding the sign.
Well, some of the children are as young as 2. I don't think parents should use their children as political props. And I think that it's irresponsible for any parent to put their child in a situation where there's a potential for danger. If the child is old enough to express a desire to attend a rally, then that's one thing. But to take a child into a situation like that is irresponsible, I believe.
I'd push back a little bit on that, because as parents, I may not agree with the opinion of a anti-Trump rally, and I would never put a pink hat on my kid. But it's parents who teach their kids values and about ideas. I happen to be a political spouse. My kids think parades are for passing out political literature. They don't know that, it's for fun. So I do think that there's a role for parents in educating their kids about issues.
Yes, I think that parents should educate their children with values and principles that shape their character. I don't see how taking a child to a protest rally, and I know there have been some teachers that have taken the whole classroom to a rally, a protest, without parental permission.
That's right.
There was a teacher that took a class to a field trip to a sex novelty shop. I talk about that in my book. There's something very, very wrong. There's something that I think we should all be concerned about. And a lot of those children, when they get old enough to think, they're going to rebel against what their parents have done to them.
It's a great point. It's one thing to pass out literature at a parade. It's another thing to go to the Brooklyn Public Library for social justice story time and read your 1-year-old A is for activist. This is effectively liberal indoctrination too, for a lot of parents.
It is, and I find in college that the young people, they come and they have memorized all the answers to all the politically correct issues of our day. They think they know everything, and only the conservatives get challenged.
Carol Swain, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Common sense.
Get your book, Abduction: Stealing the
How Liberalism Steals the Hearts and Minds of Our Children.
I love the title.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's save Jingle Bells. All right?
Okay, that's right. Save Jingle Bells. Coming up, it's happened again. Another hidden camera found spying on a family, this time on a cruise ship.
And the left is calling President Trump crazy for his concerns about the credibility of Bob Mueller's investigation.
It's a shame what's happened with the FBI, but we're going to rebuild the FBI. It'll be bigger and better than ever. But it is very sad when you look at those documents, and how they've done that is really, really disgraceful. And you have a lot of very angry people that are seeing it. It's a very sad thing to watch.
Well, let's bring in Corey Lewandowski, the former campaign manager to President Donald Trump. And Corey, I think what he's saying in part is when they rebuild the FBI, it's going to be huge, not just big. You know better than anyone, author of Let Trump Be Trump with David Bossie. But in all seriousness, moving forward here, this was a pretty dramatic week, Corey, in terms of how the narrative has shifted in terms of FBI problems with the anti-Trump text, the James Comey changes in the Hillary Clinton exoneration statement. It's pretty dramatic.
Well, it is dramatic, and what it shows is, unfortunately, the deep state is very real. And if you remember, it wasn't that long ago, Jim Comey was sitting in front of Congress telling them that he was leaking information to the media so that it could be used against this administration. And there has been no accountability for that whatsoever. And you also have to remember that you've got one FBI agent who was part of the significant part of the investigation to the Clinton administration, where he changed the rules, changed what it should say on the final outcome, interviewed Huma Abedin, interviewed Cheryl Mills, never accused them of lying, never brought them up under oath, but the rules are different for Mike Flynn, and that's what I think President Trump is concerned about, is those individuals. And look, that FBI agent, who also I think was having an illicit affair with an attorney over there, is now at the Human Resources Department. Where is the accountability in the deep state?
Corey, I just want to correct one quick thing. You said the Clinton administration when you meant the Clinton campaign. You did that.
I meant the Clinton cabal, excuse me.
Oh, okay, well, because you got it. Last time you said that on the show, you got a lot of grief from people saying.
Well, Ed, the reason is I saw Crooked Hillary this week at a book signing I was doing. She came in. She was literally right in front of me. She asked the question, what happened? I said, let Trump be Trump happen.
You had that line ready to go. I love it.
Of course. Corey, Comey's been tweeting. I think the latest tweet he wrote was, the citizen safety lies in the prosecutor who serves the law and not factional purposes. A quote from Robert H. Jackson, a former attorney general. Tell me, what do you make of all these cryptic tweets from former Director Comey?
Well, I think it's been widely reported now, Jim Comey signed a nice book tour, nice book. I think he's got $10 million coming to him based on his time at the FBI, and he's trying to get some credibility back. This is a man who sat in front of Congress and had to change his testimony on multiple occasions. This is a man who has testified under oath that he took information he received as the director of the FBI and gave it to a law professor to make sure that was put out to the public. That is a crime. I don't understand why the Justice Department has not gone after Jim Comey, and he's trying to keep an image of a holier than thou when he's a person who has lied to Congress and given out information and is not being prosecuted.
But I mean, Corey, like cryptic, poetic Bible verses. I mean, what is he alluding to? That he's higher, that he's above all of this, and everyone else is just playing in the mud?
I think he's trying to keep himself relevant in this day and age right now, and people are talking about him, which is going to be great for his book sales. Look, when you get a $10 million advance on your book, you're supposed to be a government employee. This is everything that has been wrong with the deep state. Jim Comey is the deep state. We've seen it. Look, 99.99% of the people that work for the FBI are great Americans and do their job, but Jim Comey, as the head of it, has been a complete failure.
You mentioned Hillary Clinton before. We went back and forth and had a little fun with that. She says she's wrapping up the book tour. I want to give you sort of what Rachel called earlier the greatest hits of the longest book tour ever. This was from the Ellen Show. Watch.
Democratic Party doesn't have rich donors either. I mean, has she changed her tune at all over the course of a year? Will she ever?
Well, she's never going to change because they're still in denial at the Clinton campaign that they ran the worst campaign probably in American history. They had, 4 times as much money. They had all the resources because the system was rigged from the Democratic Party, and she couldn't win because she couldn't find Wisconsin on a map. And, it's amazing. Hillary Clinton had the opportunity to lay out what her vision was for America, and it was summarily rejected because the people wanted a change agent. She was not a change agent. What we see now is Donald Trump is getting his tax package done, which he pledged on the campaign. It's a promise made. Look, Hillary Clinton may not like the tax deal because maybe she has to pay extra taxes, but she's made her money off the backs of the taxpayers for the last 25 years.
Yeah, hopefully they close those loopholes in the tax plan.
By the way, at the risk of people out in the audience there saying we never said anything nice. She looks good in leather. I don't know if you saw that clip, Corey, but she's wearing a leather motorcycle jacket. I think it looks pretty good.
I saw her very close up in person, and she didn't look too good then, so I can't see the clip.
I tried to end on a positive note. Well, anyway, thanks for...
Let Trump be Trump, Hillary. That's what happened. That's the positive note.
Okay. Thanks, Corey.
Lewandowski, thank you.
Turning now to your headlines. The U.S. Army Special Forces are now responding to one of their own, criticizing the elite group of soldiers an anonymous person claiming to be a, quote, Green Beret, posting a harsh letter online saying the group's legacy, capability, and credibility is slipping. Military leaders say they're aware of the letter but stand by the unit's prestige. A family traveling on a Carnival cruise say they found this in their cabin, a camera hidden behind their TV with what appears to be an antenna possibly transmitting information. The unidentified father telling the Miami Herald the lens was pointed at their bed. Carnival crew members took the camera down, insisting it wasn't working. The family says they still have not received an apology. Next, a World War II veteran becomes a viral sensation dancing for his upcoming 95th birthday.
Jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
That's Chuck Franzi teaching Pete Hegseth some dance moves there, throwing his cane and dancing to the holiday classic Jingle Bells. A racist tune, apparently. The former Navy pilot flew Avenger torpedo bombers off the USS Saginaw Bay in the 1940s. He now serves as an honor flight ambassador where he tells his story, raising money for the organization. That, my friends, is an American hero.
That is
we
really
salute
awesome.
And those are your headlines.
Rick, give us your impression of that.
Rick's
great
got
dance.
some moves.
No, that was all for you. That was all for you. All right, it's still cold outside right now, but this isn't going to last very long. We're going to start to see a warmer pattern move in this week. So if you have been kind of annoyed by this cold here, let's be honest, it hasn't been that bad. And it certainly is December here, so it should be a little bit chillier. We're also going to start to see a lot of moisture pull in across parts of the south today in throughout Texas. Get ready. That's going to set up the stage here for a lot of rain across the south for a lot of this week. All right, guys.
Come on over. We got some help for you.
Okay.
Our viewers have noticed your voice.
Yes.
And they're an endless source of wisdom for those of us in need.
They are.
They really are. So a couple of emails have came in with some
This
suggestions.
one's good.
Ken says Jack Daniels hot tea with lemon and honey works all the time.
I like it. I like it.
We'll have to get some JD.
Donna says this doesn't taste great, but seems to work. Strain thyme leaves into hot water, make it a tea basically, and add a little honey. What do you think?
I've done that once, actually.
Did it
What
work?
have you been doing this morning?
Nothing.
Nothing so far?
I got a bunch of things on Twitter, and all of them were booze-based. So I said I can't do that. But since we're doing it here, I mean, if you give me permission,
They might be onto something. I'll give you permission. I have no power. but
Somebody
I'm
bring
happy
him
to
some
give you
honey. I
permission.
mean, just honey would work. Just a teaspoon of honey.
That's it.
I've drank it out of the
You have
container
6 kids,
before.
so I'll believe whatever you say.
You missed 2. 8.
Jack Daniels, next hour.
What?
8.
Yeah.
8?
Blowing minds.
It's just, new things have happened.
All right, feel better. Meanwhile, the New York Times coming out with a handy new chart claiming President Trump has lied more than 100 times this year alone. But President Obama, he only lied 18 times in 8 years. Really? Our next guest says, perfect example of why Americans simply don't trust the media.
But liberals think the New York Times is patriotic. Plus,
Has a handy chart for comparing so-called falsehoods between President Trump and Obama.
the Times counting more than 100 lies coming out of the Trump administration, according to them. As for President Obama, well, he only lied 18 times in 8 years.
So is this the media bias President Trump is always talking about?
Here to weigh in, Bree Payton, staff writer for The Federalist. So, Bree, apparently it was only 18 times over 8 years, according to the fact checkers at the New York Times.
Yeah, that number is hilarious to me. And they also, they left out a number of lies that I just noticed, throughout my time being alive. Okay, one that comes to mind is I remember Obama saying to cheering crowds that Planned Parenthood offers mammograms and other services to women that they quite frankly don't, right? This is that he oft repeated on the campaign trail and at events throughout his tenure. And the other one that I thought was really interesting is the fact that they counted the, really big whopper that Obama liked to tell all the time. If you like your insurance, you get to keep it. They only counted that one time on this lie chart, despite the the fact that he said it a lot of times. There's montage and mashups that you can watch of him just saying it over and over and over again for like hours at a time. So, you know, I think it's just very clear that this is a lie. And just very clear the double standard between the way that the media covers the Obama administration and the Trump administration is just very different. And I mean, the American people are not stupid, right? They see the pantsuit think pieces about Hillary Clinton. They see the media having crushes on Obama and pretending like he only told 18 lies in 8 years. And then every single day that Donald Trump is in office, they just act like their hair is perpetually on fire. I mean, this is why a majority of the country think that the media publishes fake news, because the New York Times just gave us this great example.
Well, Bree, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, you talk about Obamacare. That's a lie that, frankly, disrupted a fifth of our economy in healthcare. And just recently we saw Congress said that Obama administration was misleading, which is double speak for lying, about uranium, which is bomb material that can get in the hands of terrorists. So Trump lies about crowd sizes. Obama lies about this. I mean, they don't even categorize it by, which lie actually impacts the lives of the American people.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I remember being told that climate change was the worst, most imminent threat to my personal safety for a long time. And I think that is just not true. Yet, you know, he only supposedly lied 18 times throughout his presidency. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
I mean, PolitiFact alone counted over 90 false statements. And then if you add in the what the Washington Post does in fact checking as well, all the Pinocchios they gave Obama, now we're well over 100 with even the open source research that the New York Times failed to do. Bree Payton, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bree. Merry
All
Christmas.
Right. Merry Christmas. Coming up, he's the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, but is Adam Schiff the leaker on Capitol Hill? Two new suspicious tweets coming up.
Plus, still need a gift for that outdoors.
If you're looking for some last-minute Christmas gifts for the outdoorsman in your life, Bass Pro Shops has got you covered.
Here with some of the hottest deals is Bass Pro Shops' Alan Treadwell. Alan, welcome back.
Oh, it's good to be here, and it's not too late. If you order now, you get guaranteed delivery by Christmas Day.
Well, it's pretty cold out here, and I see you got some slippers, you got some flannels. Talk a little bit about that, the clothing.
Well, right now we have our Redhead thermals and our Bear Creek flannels. They're on sale right now. Last minute gift ideas under $20.
Wow.
That's amazing. And the slippers, how much are those?
The slippers are 50% off. We have a lot of different styles for both men's and ladies, so they're pretty awesome as well.
What's great too is if you are going shopping last minute, you can, if you're a mom, you can bring the kids because you have fun activities to do at the Bass Pro Shop. Tell us about what you can do.
We do. You know, at Bass Pro Shops, we believe in the power of Christmas, and it's about those simpler times where you celebrated the holidays together as a family. And at Santa's Wonderland, it's a classic Christmas celebration that talks about just that. And if you go, you're going to get a free photo with Santa, but you got to hurry because Santa's only going to be there today through the 24th.
He's got to get those gifts out.
You got to get the
What
gifts
about
out.
this fryer?
So this is cool. The Butterball Fryer. This is oil-free, so you get that great fried turkey taste without all the hassle and oil.
I don't understand it. Yeah. I'm confused.
It's radiant heat that simulates that fried turkey taste, and it's on sale for under $70 right now.
What?
Wow.
And then can you do that inside?
You can do it inside. That's the cool part about it. So even when it's cold outside like today, you can do it inside.
All right, so might be time for a new rod and reel.
You know, it wouldn't be Bass Pro Shops if we didn't bring us a fishing rod and reel with us, but this Johnny Morris Carbon Light Spinning Combo, this is one of the best on the market, and for last minute gifts, it's on sale for $50 off.
Wow.
And if you can't decide, you can always get a gift certificate from Bass Pro for Dad.
You guys have like the #1 rated gift card.
We are, and we're so excited about that. It's been #1 rated by Scripps since 2010, and the reason why it never expires. And it's so
Love
easy to
that.
use. You can use it online in our restaurants, at our stores, even Big Cedar or Big Cypress lodges.
Hey, you guys are giving away a Toyota Camry this year?
We are, yep. Next segment, we're going to talk about that a little bit. If you tune in there, we'll tell you how to win one of these things. We're giving away 2 of them.
All right. You guys are going to be back in just a little bit. Alan Treadwell, Bass Pro Shops.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Visit BassProShops.com as well for those gift cards. Republicans on the verge of a major victory, releasing their tax plan overnight. What does it mean for your wallet? We'll break it down next. We're getting our first look at the final tax bill that was laid out in this deal late yesterday.
It's not 999, but it's fine, fine, fine. I think this plan is bold compared to where we are today.
The bombshell new report on the Hill claiming that attorney Lisa Bloom may have tried to set up paydays for women accusing President Trump of sexual misconduct.
A lot of revelations this week at the FBI inside the special counsel. Well, the president had some things to say on the South Lawn yesterday about that before going to talk to new recruits.
You look at what's gone on with the FBI and with the Justice Department, people are very, very angry.
With me as your president, America's police will have a true friend.
Speaking of Hillary Clinton, the longest book tour ever
has apparently come to an end.
Still blaming others more than yourself.
I don't blame others. The determining factor was the intervention by Comey.
She's never going to change because they're still in denial. Hillary Clinton had the opportunity to lay out what her vision was for America, and it was summarily rejected.
Everybody's
Got
getting
more
a little
money.
bit more in their paycheck.
We all do. Welcome, Rachel Campbell-Stuffy.
Thank you. It was cold outside. I'm still recovering. I live in Wisconsin, but you can
should be
tell
used to it.
You know, but I'm originally from Arizona. You know, you still get cold.
My view is, and being from Minnesota, the more you're in a cold place, the less you want to be cold. So I don't believe you actually build up any resistance.
You
to
guys
cold.
bail in Minnesota. You've got these indoor. You can walk for like a mile downtown without ever going outside. That's
Mall of
sad.
America.
You're soft. You're soft.
Yeah.
I agree. We have an indoor football stadium. It's all soft. But to Ed's point, big news yesterday in the GOP in conference has come to a final plan for a tax reform bill that is anticipated to be voted on in the Senate and the House early this week. We're learning now, just this morning, the new details of exactly what was passed.
7 tax brackets. Rates are going down for 5 of those brackets. The corporate tax rate, this is a big one, 35% all the way down to 21%. The president says that will spur a lot of economic activity. And big time, repeals Obamacare's individual mandate, also retains the deduction for medical expenses, exemption for grad school tuition waivers. There's also the child tax credits, Rachel, that you've been talking about this morning, that Marco Rubio said, look, we've got to keep that in there for the lower and middle class folks who Democrats keep saying this bill's not going to help them, when in fact there's a lot of details in there that will.
Right, and I think that had Marco Rubio not got his way on this, you know, even though I think the economy is going to do better, having this specifically for working class parents, people who've been battered over the last 8 years of under the Obama economy. I think Marco Rubio did something really important so that you couldn't get hit on the Republican side for saying that, you know, it was just for the rich or just for
Fair
the
enough, but
corporations.
those talking points are going to come no matter what from the left. Marco Rubio, good guy. He doesn't deserve credit for this tax bill. The president, Donald Trump, does for ramming it through.
Well, and Paul Ryan deserves a lot of credit for this
Mitch
tax
McConnell
bill.
finally figured out how to
Bob
conjure
Corker,
up.
your buddy?
Little Bob Corker has decided to vote for the bill. No, this is big news. Bob Corker says he's going to vote for it. Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, John McCain, all the holdouts from the past, and Marco Rubio held out to the end. They all say they're going to vote for it. So it'll pass with 51 or 54 votes in the Senate when it is voted
And
on.
one more thing, Mitch McConnell's been getting a bad rap, and there's a lot of good reasons for it, some would say. But look, he is the wily one who stuck that Obamacare repeal individual mandate in there, and it survived
They couldn't
the
get
conference, and it's still there. And
you got to give them credit for that. They couldn't get the skinny bill passed of the repeal, but they got the individual mandate repeal, which so many conservatives hate about the bill. Say what you want. This is a victory for Republicans, and they're betting that it will improve the lives of Americans, which only improves the electoral prospects.
What you need to know this morning, a vote as early as Monday, perhaps in the Senate, Tuesday in the House, could slide to Wednesday. But bottom line, by the end of this coming week, you may see a final deal that the president can sign into law by Christmas. Who better to taste test all of this than the guy who used to run Godfather
See what you
Pizza?
did there.
That's
You
right.
see what I did there? He also wanted taxes. He wanted the rates for corporations, for individuals to come down to 9%. Didn't quite get there. But what does he think? Here he is.
It's not 999, but it's fine, fine, fine. They got all of the big issues right. Even though it's 7 brackets, every one of the rates at each bracket went down except for 3. That's good news for individuals. I know a lot of people are demagogue calling this a giveaway to the rich. No, it's not. Job creators had a big win. That is great. The biggest thing that they did right was to repeal the tax penalty on not having health insurance.
Respond to this as well. The market was betting on this passing. Now that it looks like it will pass, the market could continue to rise.
A few weeks ago, we had Democrats, in addition to this is for the rich, saying, look, president's got no major legislative victories in year one. This is a disaster. Republicans are going to lose the House and the Senate. Rachel, they needed this.
They did. And I'm going to tell you what, this is going to be rocket fuel for an already incredible economy. And I think the homework for the Republicans, if you will be to make sure to explain this to young people. We've seen polling coming out that young people think socialism is just fine. They've just survived the Obama years. We already hear Democrats trying to say that the economic success that we're seeing right now and we will see after these tax reforms is all because of Obama.
Sure.
There's going to be some education that's needed. This is what a free market economy looks like. This is what happens when you deregulate the economy. You get these kinds of results.
And if the economy takes off, you mentioned rocket fuel, and not a single Democrat, Pete, in either chamber votes for it, how can they claim credit in the midterms?
No, that's exactly right. One of the other criticisms of this president has been that how can he get things done while he's tweeting, or how can he get one thing done while doing something else? Well, as tax reform has moved forward, the president has continued his litigation of the politicization inside the FBI and the DOJ. Yesterday, on his way to a swearing-in ceremony of FBI agents, he made some comments on the South Lawn. Now, some have made it look like they're contradictory. We'll let you decide. Take a look.
It's a shame what's happened with the FBI, but we're going to rebuild the FBI. It'll be bigger and better than ever. But it is very sad when you look at those documents. When you look at what's gone on with the FBI and with the Justice Department, people are very, very angry.
With me as your president, America's police will have a true friend more loyal than anyone else can be. The President of the United States has your back 100%. I will fight for you, and I will never, ever let you down, ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we've made earlier in the show, both can be true. You can indict the politicization at the top while also supporting the boots on the bottom. And frankly, the same applies in the military. If you're pulling triggers on the battlefield, you want to know that your generals are doing all the right things for apolitical reasons. That's not happening. You want that to change.
And a lot of the boots on the ground are unhappy with not just the politicization at the top, but the damage that's been done to the reputation of the FBI because of this. And by the way, when the president says, I'm with you 100% to law enforcement, I'm going to fight for you, he has a lot of credibility, whether you're a police officer in a small town, in Michigan, or you're in the FBI. No one can question that this president loves law enforcement and has been standing behind them, whether it's, fighting back against what Kaepernick did, wearing socks and all the other things that have happened. He's always had the back of law enforcement.
Pete talked about those generals in the military. The generals in this investigative realm would be people like James Comey, who took a hit this week in terms of their credibility. You have another investigator in Democrat Adam Schiff, who's running the Democratic side, the minority side of the House Intelligence Committee investigating Russia. Put out some interesting tweets yesterday. First one, I'm increasingly worried Republicans will shut down the House Intel Committee investigation at the end of the month. He added, it appears Republicans want to conduct just enough interviews to give the impression of a serious investigation. So here's the point. Why did he preemptively do it? Is because he's feeling the heat in recent days that Adam Schiff has been doing two things. One, appearing on TV a lot, which is fine. We do that. But he's got a job to do, which is actually get to the bottom of this and focus on the facts. And he's been on television just pontificating about the president a lot, number one. And number two,
because the narrative's important. I think he wants to control the
narrative. And the other way you control the narrative, you're right, Pete, is by leaking information. And Adam Schiff has been accused of pouring out all kinds of information, sensitive information from the Intelligence Committee. And in fact, when Donald Trump Jr. Just a few days ago was testifying for hours before Adam Schiff's House Intelligence Committee, while Donald Trump Jr. was still testifying behind closed doors, word was leaking out about what he was saying behind closed doors. How does that happen?
Because there were no cell phones allowed in the meeting, from what we're told. But Adam Schiff left the room a number of times during this long grilling. And after he left, information seemed to make its way out into the
Times,
public.
CNN starts saying, here's what Donald Trump Jr. is saying. And I talked to someone close to the president who told me that Donald Trump Jr. at the end of the several hours of testimony comes out, finally gets his phone, he and his lawyer, and they have all these messages saying, New York Times is saying this, CNN is saying that. What in the world is going on behind closed doors? They're frustrated because they believe what was going on is Donald Trump Jr. was doing what he was supposed to do, which is raise your right hand and tell the truth, give your testimony. And Adam Schiff was leaving the room to maybe leak information and set the narrative and make Donald Trump Jr. look bad, even if he was actually telling the
And
truth.
by the way, you mentioned his tweets. It wasn't just a couple tweets. I mean, there was a literal tweet storm. I think it really shows that Adam Schiff has a lot riding on this narrative. I mean, he has really staked his career on this Russia collusion. And as every piece falls apart, and we're now a year and a half and how many millions of dollars into this investigation with not one piece of evidence showing collusion between
and his
Trump
counterpart, Devin
and the
Nunes,
Russians.
in many ways has been vindicated. After
He was investigated, and they said, well, it turns out he didn't do anything wrong.
Absolutely.
That's right. All right, well, this is my favorite story of the morning. A poll from a group called Ear to the Ground. They polled 1,000 Americans, and they asked them simple questions about patriotism. Here's one response. It says, is it completely accurate to say you are proud to be an American? 65% of conservatives, which strikes me as low, but 37% of liberals would say that they are proud to be an American.
I bet that number is because there's a lot of people on the left who hate the president so much they say, I'm not proud to be an American. They can't separate their blind hatred of the president from the idea of what it means to be an American.
I wonder what that number was just 2 years ago under Barack Obama, as if it's tied to that.
They would have said, I'm really proud to be
Well,
an
this poll is so interesting because they also looked at brands. Like, what are the top 5 patriotic brands for conservatives versus liberals? So conservatives said that the NRA, Chick-fil-A, Republican Party, Fox News, and Hobby Lobby.
And for liberals, the Democratic Party, U.S. Supreme Court.
It doesn't love a little Chick-fil-A.
We got Chick-fil-A. We got to go back to that. While you guys eat Chick-fil-A, let me gleefully reply to you what liberals believe is patriotic. It's the Democratic Party. Go ahead, Ed. Keep going.
No, you got it. And then the Democratic Party, U.S. Supreme Court, this is what liberals say are patriotic brands. Planned Parenthood, the NFL, and the New York Times. So liberals are saying in this poll that they believe Planned Parenthood, the NFL with all the kneeling, and the New York Times, that's what patriotism is about. It's interesting.
It's so shocking yet so revealing.
I honestly, I have to tell you, the other brands on the liberal side, I kind of get, but Planned Parenthood, I mean, I just don't associate that with patriotism, but maybe that's the divide we're
If only
talking
the
about.
Supreme Court was about fidelity to the Constitution, I can't talk with Chick-fil-A in my mouth. The reason they like the Supreme Court is because it is legislated from the bench and brought so many of the progressive ideals that they have.
We asked you what you think. James emailed, I'm shocked that neither group listed the U.S. military. Great point.
Maybe that's a given for
We
conservatives.
have an email from Kathy who says, how can the NFL be considered patriotic when they are allowing protests during the national anthem? That is the least patriotic thing ever. It's interesting, with the NFL, I think they are losing some of their patriotic branding because of what Kaepernick.
Of course, because for those on the left, it's patriotic if it's against America, which I don't know how that
What do you
makes
think
sense.
about John emailing us his top patriotic brands? Budweiser, I agree with you. Ralph Lauren.
I don't know.
Bullish in America? What is that? Patriotic
Bullish in America. That's Dan Rooney's organization. Folds
of Honor. I agree with you. And the Ford Motor Company. I think General Motors as well.
How about Dairy Queen?
By the way, Folds of Honor.
Dairy
got it
Queen
on my
would be
That's
really
all
good.
American, man.
I also feel Budweiser was bought by a foreign company.
Yeah,
maybe
Belgian company.
Maybe Coors Light. I don't know. That's
All right.
all American.
Meanwhile,
Keep them coming for us. Friends at FoxNews.com. What do you think? Coming up, President Trump says the Visa lottery program allows the worst of the worst to enter the U.S., including the failed Port Authority bomber. Dr. Sebastian Gorka says the president is absolutely right. He joins us next. Welcome back. President Trump once again slamming chain migration and the Visa lottery system, saying it's allowing the worst of the worst into the United States.
You think the country's given us their best people? No. What kind of a system is that? They come in by lottery. They give us their worst people. They put them in a bin. But in his hand, when he's picking them, is really the worst of the worst. Congratulations, you're going to the United States. Okay.
Here to weigh in, Fox News national security strategist and former deputy assistant to the president, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Doctor, good morning. Thank you. Here's some additional numbers on chain migration. In 2017 alone, 99% of the more than 12,000 immigrant visas were family-based as opposed to merit-based. How do we change the system the way the president has talked about?
Very simply, by using his leadership to fix a completely bankrupt and broken immigration system, Peter. I mean, this is insanity. I just got back from Australia, which has one of the strictest immigration systems in the world. You have to prove, not only are you not a threat to the nation of Australia, but you have to prove through merit-based analysis that the job you want cannot be done by Australians themselves. So nobody calls Australia Islamophobic or racist. Why can't we have a system like that? The idea, for example, with the diversity lottery, that somebody in Kazakhstan or Bangladesh can spin a wheel, and if their number comes up, they get a green card. That's Russian roulette for America, and it must end.
I think there's a misunderstanding. People hear the word extreme vetting, for example, and they think this is some new thing that President Trump invented. My mother is an immigrant, and when she became an American citizen or applied to become an American citizen, they interviewed her mom, her sisters, people she knew in her home country of Spain. So it's not a new concept. And when we talk about the lottery system, tell us how the recent terrorist attacks that we've been experiencing, and especially under this new administration, how that might help move forward the way we start to think about immigration in this country.
Right, so you're absolutely right. I'm an immigrant myself. You need to have background investigations of the people who want to come to America. They have to demonstrate that they love this country, that they're not coming here for some ulterior purpose. The idea that this individual came through chain migration, the latest New York attacker, or the other prior New York attack, remember the bicycle path one just a few weeks ago? Rachel, that individual came here and then sponsored more than 20 other people to come to America. That's just insane. We can fix this because we simply have to remove those policies that were put in place by the Obama administration. Think about the fact that the State Department, Peter, isn't allowed to look at your Facebook postings when you apply for a visa. That's insane.
Doctor, can these two things, the lottery program and chain migration, what can be done through executive action and what needs Congress?
Well, it's very clear if you look at the Supreme Court's decision, the constitutional right to decide upon the metrics for immigration into this country lie with one person. And it's not a judge in Hawaii. It lies with the President of the United States. So through executive action, you can't fix everything, but most of the problems that we've inherited from the Obama administration can be fixed out of the White House, Peter.
Of course, the problem there is that they could be undone by a subsequent administration. Maybe Congress can act as well. But Dr. Sebastian Gorka, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right, coming up, doubts are rising about Robert Mueller's Russia probe. So can Attorney General Jeff Sessions withdraw his recusal and take an active role in the investigation? We'll ask that.
Some quick headlines for you. An ISIS-inspired killer gets the death penalty for beheading his co-worker, who was a grandmother. Alton Nolan attacked her at an Oklahoma food processing plant back in 2014, and he assaulted others as well. The 33-year-old told police he believed his actions followed the Quran. Investigators also found an ISIS flag in his car and a computer search history of ISIS beheadings. And in addition to that, a racist letter from prison reveals that Dylan Roof has no remorse for murdering 9 African Americans at a Charleston church. In an interview airing tomorrow on 60 Minutes, a former white supremacist wrote him in prison only to hear, quote, "Traitor, you've really cashed in, haven't you? I know you won't be, but you really should be ashamed of yourself." And President Trump calls John McCain's wife to check in on the Arizona senator who is back in the hospital. McCain is dealing with complications from his cancer treatment. The Republican senator was diagnosed earlier this year with an aggressive form of brain cancer. We wish him well.
All right. Thanks, Rachel. President Trump slamming the Russia probe, calling the investigation a Democrat hoax.
There is absolutely no collusion. I didn't make a phone call to Russia. I have nothing to do with Russia. Everybody knows it. That was a Democrat hoax. It was an excuse for losing the election, and it should have never been this way, where they spent all these millions of dollars.
And with those doubts about the Russia investigation, is it time for Attorney General Jeff Sessions to withdraw his recusal and take a more active role? Here to weigh in, Harvard Law professor and the author of Trumped Up, Alan Dershowitz. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning and happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas to everybody.
And same to you and everyone in our audience. I wonder, Professor, let's break this down into several parts. First of all, the recusal. When Jeff Sessions recused himself way back at the beginning of the year, it wasn't just about Russia. It was about the entire 2016 campaign, as you know, because he played an important role, the first senator to endorse President Trump as a candidate. Could he unrecuse himself?
He could. The law certainly allows anybody who's recused themselves to change that if there are new developments or new circumstances. One of the new developments, of course, is that Ron Rosenstein should recuse himself. He is a witness. Obviously, if there's any investigation of obstruction of justice for firing Comey, and there shouldn't be, that is a constitutionally protected act. But if that is part of the investigation, then Rosenstein is a key witness. He wrote the crucial memo. And so you now have the deputy who is in a position of a conflict of interest, even more serious than the attorney general. So that would be a circumstance that he could consider. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's now safely away from the line of fire, and probably he won't change his mind about that, but he could. Lawfully, he could do that.
You're a longtime Democrat, a longtime Republican that we had on the show last hour. Jason Chaffetz had this to say about Jeff Sessions. I want you to react.
It pains me to say this a little bit, but I don't think the Attorney General is up to the job that he's doing. He's absent from this. The reason there's a special counsel is because he had to recuse himself from everything. And my own personal opinion, I think it's time for the Attorney General to go because you need leadership there, some deep systemic problems there.
Professor, I spoke to a senior advisor to the president a couple days ago who told me, for one thing, inside the White House, they can't believe that the Attorney General hasn't done anything, at least with Peter Strzok, for example. I mean, the Justice Department oversees the FBI. How can these anti-Trump text messages, pro-Clinton text messages be out there, and yet this guy still has a job at the FBI?
Well, I agree with that. I think he should have recused himself immediately as soon as he was asked to join the investigation, because he had written these horrible messages, and nobody who expresses views like that can be seen by the public as unbiased when it comes to investigating people who he has expressed such views about. So I don't think that he belongs in government anymore after expressing those views and continuing into the investigation. But the Attorney General's in a tough position because this is within what he has recused himself of. Look, I think Sessions would like to get out of the role of Attorney General because his position has been so deeply compromised. And I think the president would like to see him out of that role. But I don't think either wants to take the action. I don't think the president wants to fire the Attorney General. I'm not sure the Attorney General wants to quit. So we have an uncomfortable situation where the president has a cabinet member who he doesn't have complete faith in. Now, we don't know what else Sessions is doing in the Justice Department. He may be doing a good job outside of the limelight of the Russian probe. We just don't know enough to know that.
Last question. I want to ask you about something else important. Anytime somebody at Fox News or anybody on Capitol Hill raises questions about Peter Strzok and these text messages, anti-Trump messages, the situation at the Justice Department with Bruce Orr, a top official who did not disclose that he had ties to Fusion GPS and potentially the dossier, they say, oh, this is all about attacking Robert Mueller and the special counsel and his credibility. Isn't there a separation here, Professor, where it may not be about Mueller, it may be about just bringing actual oversight and truth and justice to the FBI and the Justice Department, which is separate from Robert Mueller, and get to the bottom of this so that we know both the Clinton and Trump investigations are just being done fairly?
I agree with that. I think what Mueller should do to avoid all suspicion is he should bring onto his team an ethics expert, a former judge, somebody who's beyond reproach. I don't think we need another special counsel looking for criminal conduct. As you know, I'm strongly opposed to the criminalization of political differences on either side. But to bring in an ethics expert like Mike Mukasey or Louis Freeh, the former head of the FBI, a former judge, or some other retired judge, Democrat, Republican, to give him ethics advice to make sure that we don't see a recurrence of these problems. and to make sure that the investigation goes forward without any conflicts of interest, bias, or even the perception of bias. When you're going after the President of the United States and people in the White House, you have to be Caesar's wife. You have to be beyond reproach.
Exactly.
And there are too many people today who are doubting the investigation.
So much noise around this. Professor, thanks for actually bringing some facts to the table. Happy Hanukkah, as you said. Merry Christmas as well. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Still ahead, more evidence this morning. The Rock, yes, The Rock, is seriously considering a White House run. Is this for real? And fired FBI Director James Comey, again, sending those cryptic tweets just as the president addressed his former agency. What in the world is going on here? The man with the answer, former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, here to analyze in the House. Next.